We shall continue with the nuclear and particle physics, and today we will be discussing nuclear models. We have got two models, the liquid drop model and the shell model in our syllabus, and we will also discuss meson theory of nuclear forces. The broad contents will be nuclear models, and there are different models we have, but here in our syllabus we need to study only liquid drop model and the shell model, and we will also discuss about meson theory of nuclear forces. What is the force which binds the nucleons? We will go back to, we will start with nuclear models. When you say model, it is a theory to explain the experimental fact. In the atomic case, we have got Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. So that is a Bohr model. So he takes a model and is able to explain the Lyman series, Balmer series, all that beautifully explained. So it becomes a successful model. So model is a theory, and this model must be able to explain some experimental feature. So in a nucleus, we will observe some experimental feature. This model should be able to explain. Now, the liquid drop model explains fission. So you got nucleus undergoing fission is an experimental fact, and the liquid drop model is able to successfully explain the fission process. Then we have the shell model for magic numbers. When you say magic numbers, these are numbers, number of neutron or proton, or Z or N. When it is equal to 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 82, 126, that nucleus is particularly stable. So we call it as magic. We do not know why it is stable. So that was called magic, and the shell model is able to explain that. After explanation, we need not call it as magic. The classical liquid drop model was unable to explain, therefore it was called magic. Now the same name or adjective is used. So when you go to liquid drop model, the first unit we derived the Weizsäcker mass formula that is based on the liquid drop model, and it has been derived already, and therefore we are just making a note of that so that we can recall that Weizsäcker mass formula which is based on the liquid drop model. And we have under liquid drop model Bohr-Wheeler theory. Bohr and Wheeler for fission. Weizsäcker gave the mass formula. Bohr and Wheeler are the two scientists, physicists, who gave explanation for the fission process. And the assumption is a heavy nucleus behaves like a liquid drop. Suppose I take maybe one water molecule, it won't behave like a liquid. If you take two water molecules, then it will become a drop. Then more number of water molecule, then only it behaves like a visible drop. Similarly, if you take one or two proton or neutron, that doesn't become a liquid. That it's not a, it doesn't behave like a liquid. But if you take large number of neutron and proton, then it starts behaving like a liquid. Therefore, the liquid drop model is valid for heavy nuclei. Now we will just see the comparison. What makes one think that a nucleus is like a heavy nucleus is like a liquid drop? Now we take a liquid drop. What are the parameters it has got? A liquid drop can have evaporation, it can have condensation, it can have density is constant, and it has got surface tension. Now we will see analogous to that what are the things a heavy nucleus can have. When you say evaporation, equivalent to that is radioactivity. That is, in evaporation the water molecules evaporate, comes out of the liquid. Similarly, when you talk about heavy nucleus, it is radioactivity, alpha, beta, gamma come out. So this is the comparison that we make. Condensation. When you say condensation, suppose I take two water drops, bring them closer, they will combine together, they will condense and make one drop, that is called compound. Similarly, here we have compound nucleus formation. Suppose I have got a neutron which is bombarding uranium 235 for example, it will get embedded, it will become 236. So, it will become a compound nucleus. It is a condensation process similar to condensation of a liquid drop. Now, for a liquid drop, density is constant. Density is constant. Similarly, here we have binding energy per nucleon is a constant. For a heavy nucleus, binding energy per nucleon is a constant. Now, here when you say density is mass per unit volume. Similarly, here this energy is proportional to mass, and this mass number A is proportional to r cubed, because we know r, the radius constant, r equal to r naught a power 1 by 3. Therefore, A will be proportional to r cubed, and r cubed is proportional to volume. So, it is like this is proportional to mass, this is proportional to volume, mass by volume is a constant. So, very similar to density being constant for a liquid, mass per unit volume. And we have got surface tension. So, when do you get surface tension? When the surface nucleons for a liquid the surface molecules, water molecules, they are loosely bound. So, they form a skin. They have got only forces inward and sideward. Therefore, they form a skin, surface tension. Similarly, we have got for a nucleus, surface nucleons are loosely bound, which causes surface tension of liquid, surface tension of nuclear matter. Therefore, what we assume here is, if we take a heavy nucleus, it must behave like a liquid. It is not stable, it will behave like a liquid. This is an assumption made by Weizsäcker, Bohr and Wheeler. Now, the Weizsäcker mass formula is an important outcome of this liquid drop model, where we get the mass formula, and it is already derived in unit 1. Now, we will go to the Bohr-Wheeler theory of fission. So, what does this theory give? This gives theoretical explanation for fission. When you say a fission process, it gives theoretical explanation for fission, how a fission takes place, and it provides condition for spontaneous fission. When you say spontaneous fission, it undergoes fission by itself, spontaneous. Certain nuclei, we have to initiate some energy to make it undergo fission. Certain nuclei will undergo fission without giving any energy. So, if it happens without giving any energy, it is called spontaneous fission. And here we observe what is the condition for spontaneous fission. Why only some nuclei are undergoing fission and why others not. So, we will discuss about this condition, and then we will also derive expression for activation energy. Fission is not spontaneous, it means it requires some energy to initiate fission. The energy that is required to initiate fission is the activation energy. So, we will go further. So, for this Bohr-Wheeler theory of fission, what are the assumptions made? So, Bohr and Wheeler, they assumed the following two things. Heavy nucleus is analogous to charged liquid drop. So, what they said is, it is a liquid drop, it is a charged liquid drop. It is like a water drop, charged water drop. So, it is a liquid drop which is charged. Nuclear matter is incompressible. So, what we assume is, if you compress, it will only change shape. If you take a water drop, if you press it, it will change shape. It will not get compressed, it will change shape. So, it is incompressible, which means the density will be remaining constant. If you are not able to compress it, it means the density is constant and the volume remains same, because mass is same, density is constant, volume will remain same during shape transition. So, suppose you got a water drop, if you disturb it, it will change shape, but volume will remain constant. So, that is the assumption we make for this Bohr-Wheeler theory of fission. Now, here we will just give one example we take about uranium 235 fission. Uranium 92, atomic number 92, mass number 235. A neutron bombards. So, this is neutron bombarding uranium 235. So, what will happen is, it will become 236, it will get embedded. As we said, it will form a compound nucleus, it will get embedded 235 has become 236. Now here it was spherical. Now it is here it is ellipsoidal. So in a spherical nucleus or for any sphere, if it is a charged sphere, all the charges will be concentrated at the center. It has got only one center. Sphere has got one center. Suppose it becomes ellipsoidal, we have got two focal points. So for any ellipsoid, we know that for any ellipsoid, we will have two focal points. Therefore, the charges will be centered here and here. So in other words, the charges will be decentered. So once this happens, plus and plus charges there. So they will get deviated, that is due to Coulomb repulsion. So they will become two fragments. After this, these two fragments will separate. So as they separate, the kinetic energy will go on increasing, and that is the energy available as fission energy. So that is what we have just made as a point. So once this happens, charges are decentered. Therefore, Coulomb repulsion will take place, and the deformation, the nucleus will become more and more deformed, and it will become two fragments, this one, two fragments. So in this case, the potential energy decreases. So as the fragments separate, the Coulomb repulsive energy, potential energy goes on decreasing, kinetic energy will go on increasing. So here, if delta E is the difference between, so what we say is binding energy of the ellipsoidal nucleus and the binding energy of the spherical nucleus, we will take it as the difference in binding energy as delta E between the ellipsoidal and spherical, that is ellipsoidal is final, final minus initial. If delta E is positive, what will happen? Binding energy become more, the nucleus will become more stable and fission is not possible. If delta E is positive, nucleus will become more stable and fission is not possible because of what we said here. If delta E is negative, because this is the binding energy has decreased, the nucleus becomes unstable and the fission is inevitable. Therefore, what is the condition for fission? Delta E should be negative for fission to occur. And here the Coulomb energy, what will happen is due to the Coulomb energy, the two nuclei will try to separate. The ellipsoidal nucleus will try to deform, and the surface energy, that is surface tension, that will try to retain the shape. So the Coulomb energy tends to deform the nucleus and the surface energy tends to retain the shape of the nucleus. Now here, when will fission take place? So the surface energy is trying to bind, Coulomb energy is trying to separate. We want fission to occur. So the Coulomb energy should be greater. The Coulomb energy must be greater than surface energy. Only then it is possible. And already when we derived Weizsäcker mass formula, we have derived this part. Coulomb energy equal to 3 Z squared by 3 by 5 Z squared E squared 4 pi epsilon 0 or not a power 1 by 3. This we have derived. And also in the same Weizsäcker mass formula, we have derived this also. Es, the surface energy, is 4 pi r naught squared tau a power 2 by 3. That also we have derived. You can just go back to Weizsäcker mass formula and see this. Now just look into these two things. So this is EC, this is ES. EC must be greater. So you put that EC in this side, ES take it to the other side. This is a power 1 by 3, a power 2 by 3. You can bring it here as A, and on the other side it is be Z. All other things are constant. All other parameters are constant. Z is a variable, A is a variable. All other parameters are constant. So you just put EC is greater than ES, and you substitute all the values, you will find that Z squared by A is greater than 48. This is the condition. So this is the condition derived by Bohr and Wheeler. Condition for spontaneous fission, this is the condition. So, you can remember Z squared by A is greater than 48. Now, if we take uranium, if we calculate, for uranium it is 92 squared, and if we take uranium 236, you put as 236, calculate that, you will find that it is 36, it has got value 36. So, it has got a value slightly lower than this. So, it requires some energy to initiate fission. Suppose you take some other nucleus, super heavy nucleus, like maybe Z equal to 106 and Z equal to 106, A equal to some value. If you take that, then if it crosses 48 or if it is equal to 48, that particular nucleus cannot exist, because it will undergo fission spontaneously. So, this is a condition for spontaneous fission. And what we observe is, among the naturally occurring elements, uranium has got the maximum value 36. All other elements are not existing in nature, because they would have already undergone fission spontaneously. Now, if we take uranium, since it has got 36, we have to give some energy, some disturbance should be given, then it will undergo fission. That disturbance, that energy that you need to give is what we call activation energy. So, that is the activation energy. So, it is the energy required to initiate fission in a nucleus. So, we are not deriving here, because in our scope of the syllabus there is no tunneling probability. Therefore, but anyway it is a useful equation we are just presenting here. So, this is the fission energy, activation energy, 19 minus 0.36 Z squared A. This is obtained assuming tunneling probability, tunneling of the particle, so that fission will occur. And if you calculate this, take uranium mass number 236 or take plutonium, all that. So, the value comes to about 4 to 6 MeV. We will just recall what is the energy released in fission. Energy released in fission is about 200 MeV, more than about 200 MeV it is for each fission process. Now, the energy that you need to give is 4 to 6 MeV, which means there is a gain of nearly 50 times. You give 4 MeV, but you are able to get 200 MeV as outcome. So, that is the energy that we get in a nuclear reactor. Now, we will go to the next model, it is called shell model. This explains magic numbers. So, we will just will go into detail what is a magic number, but now here we will go into the physicists who proposed this. Jensen and Mayer are the two physicists who proposed this model, shell model. LDM, that is liquid drop model, is a classical model. The shell model is a quantum model, and when you say classical model, there is no Pauli exclusion principle involved. When you say quantum model, we have got the energy levels and also a Pauli exclusion principle will be valid. LDM is meant for heavy nuclei, because only a heavy nucleus behaves like a liquid drop. Therefore, it is more valid for heavy nuclei, whereas the shell model is for all nuclei. So, the aim of the shell model is to explain the magic numbers. So, now we will go to what are magic numbers. So, for a nucleus, if Z or N equal to 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 80 to 126, then that particular nucleus is very stable, is found to be very stable, Z or N. And the liquid drop model, which is a classical model, was unable to explain, and so they call it as magic. Something is happening, it's we are able to get stability, so it is called magic. Now, the liquid shell model is able to explain that. So, before we go to the explanation, we will just see what are the evidences for magic numbers. So, why do you say that 2, 8, 20 are stable? So, first you say helium 24, which is a alpha particle. Alpha particle is a stable entity. It has got proton number 2, neutron number 2, and OH 16, it has got proton number 8, neutron number 8. Calcium 2040, similarly 20 20, we have got proton number 20, neutron number 20. So, we get all these things are stable, and we nickel Z equal to 28, it has got large number of isotopes. 28 with we have not indicated the mass number because it has got many number of isotopes. Similarly, tin, it has got Z equal to 50, it has got good number of isotopes. So, it indicates 2, 8, 20, 28, 50 are magic numbers, they are stable. And also we have discussed radioactive series. If you remember 4n series, 4n plus 1, 4n plus 2, 4n plus 3 series, and then we observed that lead 82 208 is stable. This indicates, so the lead is stable. This indicates that lead Z equal to 82 is stable. 208 is 208 minus 82 is 126, neutron number is 126, that is also stable. So, we get a stable system, and lead is stable. So, in the radioactive series, we have got one parent nucleus emitting some other alpha, beta, gamma, all that. Finally, when it comes to lead, it is stable, it is not emitting anything else, stable. That is why in a reactor, nuclear reactor, lead is used as a shield, and also in hospitals where we use the source alpha, beta, gamma, beta source for medical purpose, therapy purpose, there lead chamber is used, and because lead is a stable system and it will not emit any radiation. So, for radiation protection, lead is used. Whenever the number is 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 82, 126, the nucleus is stable, and for these nuclei the first excitation energy is large, because we have got energy level, the energy level is the upper level is large. So, we need to give a very large energy to in order to excite it. So, we call it first excitation energy is large. All these nuclei, because of this magic number stability, we find natural neutron emitting nuclei. For example, helium 25, see if you observe, it has got 2 proton and 3 neutron. 3 neutron is magic number plus 1, magic number plus 1. Only 2 is stable, the third one is unstable. So, it will be thrown out. So, it is a natural neutron emitter. So, that once the neutron, one neutron comes out, it will become helium 24, which is a stable system. Similarly, OH 17, it has got 9 neutrons. So, the 9th neutron is not stable. So, it has got 8 plus 1 neutron. So, that 8 plus 1, the 9th neutron is emitted spontaneously. Similarly, we have got Kr 3687, 87 minus 36 is 51. So, 50 is a stable number, it has got 51. So, the 51st neutron will be thrown out. So, they are natural neutron emitters. So, this will give us an idea why we say magic number nuclides are stable. Now, when you say go for the theory of the shell model, atomic electrons, we have got KLM shell, they are all filled up, when it is filled up, it is stable, that is why we get noble gas. Okay. So, let us not go to the atomic case. So, it has got shells. Similarly, nucleus has got shell closure. So, whenever there is a shell closure, there is stability. The shell closure is happening at a magic number. In the atomic case, we have only electrons. Only electrons are filled up, 2 electron. So, according to Pauli principle. In the nuclear case, neutron and protons are filled up. Neutrons and protons are non-identical, they are not identical particles. Therefore, what is according to Pauli principle, no two non-identical can have the same quantum numbers. Now, these are non-identical. Therefore, Pauli principle is valid separately for neutron and proton, And therefore, as a result, in the atomic case, if you remember in the atomic case, the lowest level will have 2 electron. Helium atom will have 2 electron. Third electron will go to the next level, the first level it will have. Here in the nuclear case, the lowest level will have 2 neutron and 2 proton, because they are not. So, 4 particles can be accommodated in the lowest level. Lowest level has 2 neutron and 2 proton. So, that is a difference between the shell structure in the atomic case and the shell structure in the nuclear case. So, here the potential for shell model, how do you get the potential energy diagram? What is the method done is, we have to use the Schrodinger equation and assume that square well potential or LHO potential, linear harmonic oscillator potential, and using Schrodinger equation the energy levels are obtained. Energy level. So, we know that, remember, the Schrodinger equation will have V of r minus E, where E is the energy, V of r is the potential. That potential can be used as a square well potential or LHO potential. In both cases, we get the same result. So, there with that they just draw up the energy level diagram, and they found, or we find, that the lowest level has got 2, it can accommodate 2 neutron, for example. If you take only neutron, 2 neutron, then here 8 neutron, 20, after that the energy level is, so they are all closed. At 2 it is closed, 8 closed, 20 closed. So, these are called magic numbers. These are the closed shells, 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 82, 126. So, whenever neutron number is equal to this or the proton number is equal to this, then the nucleus is very stable. The energy level diagram using Schrodinger equation is able to reproduce the magic numbers of the nucleus. Now, we will just summarize. So, we have discussed the liquid drop model and the shell model. So, one is the classical and the other one is quantum. In the LDM, we have outlined the condition for fission. Remember, Z squared by A greater than 48. If you substitute and see, then you will know whether that nucleus is suitable for a fission reactor. And we can also calculate the activation energy. We are given one expression, we can calculate the activation energy required. And we have listed out the evidences for magic numbers. Why do you call as magic numbers? So, we will just pose a few questions. We can explain the comparison between heavy nucleus and a liquid drop, all the comparisons, outline the Bohr-Wheeler theory of fission, and you can calculate the energy, activation energy required to initiate fission in 235 nucleus. It will be about 4 to 5 MeV. List out the magic numbers based on the shell model of the nucleus, 2, 8, 20, all that. The next class we will be discussing Meson theory of nuclear forces and thereby derive the Yukawa potential. Thank you.